Byron had a child who took his own life, and he's going to talk to you a little bit about this today. So please give Byron a warm welcome.
Thanks, Byron.
Good morning.
Morning.
Thank you for coming to support these guys. The work they doing is just fantastic. They put a huge commitment into safeguarding our kids. 2 years ago, well, just over 2 years last September the 12th, I waved my kids goodbye, put them on the school bus. Only one of them came home. After a long and sustained problem of bullying, a lack of safeguarding, which occurred in the school, St. John Lloyd School in Llanelli, which has been denied, covered up, swept under the carpet, and no one listened. We eventually got into this building. We met with Kirsty Williams, thanks to David Rowlands and our local minister, which was, our local one didn't want to know, but the neighbouring boundary was Neil Hamilton, and Neil gave us a lot of support and pointed us in the right direction. We met with Kirsty Williams, we fed back on the new bullying policies, which was a welcome step, but it doesn't go far enough. But one thing's become apparent throughout the problems we faced is that when you put your child into school, through that school gate, they want you to have no say.
Yeah.
They want to push parents to one side. You don't have an opinion. Your opinion doesn't count. And we've got to stop that. We can bring up our kids our way.
Yes. Yes.
Not every kid fits a box. Not every square peg will fit a round hole. Kids are individual, with individual needs. And these guys roll out policy after policy after policy. And they all sound good. Yesterday, we've got a huge fight. We've got obviously the coroner's inquest first. We had things through from the barristers for the school. Big hotshot, top-drawer barristers shipped in from London to tell us where they didn't go wrong. Yesterday, we had an acceptance that their policy and their system failed. It's taken over 2 years. That shouldn't have happened.
No.
That should not have happened. We've been discredited. I've been arrested just for trying to get people to tell the truth. That should never happen. And what I want to say to everyone, every parent in this country, you have got a say. Don't let that say be denied you. Thank you.
Thank you, Byron. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Byron. Thank you very much. It's very admirable of you. Right, guys, so we'll get into the sex education then, shall we? This is the main reason why we're here. We're here because these guys in here have got a new curriculum bill, and they've all been bragging about that curriculum bill, haven't they? They're all excited for it. But they haven't told you the contents of it, have they? They have taken away maths and science and replaced it with religion and sex, basically. It's supposed to be safeguarding, but it's not. So we tell them now it's not safeguarding. Right, guys, I'm going to show you how we got to where we are, right? So, we've got the United Nations and the World Health Organization. We've cooked up this great plan now for us all to have sex education. They want it from birth. Our government are passing a law from age 3, and my documents start from age 5. But let's have a closer look, okay? So this document here, now this is the policy framework, okay? So we call this the scaffolding, right? So this is what they're all based on, guys. In here they want sex education from birth. In between age 0 to 4, they want masturbation, early childhood masturbation, differentiate between good and bad secrets, and consent. If that's not enough, between age 6 and 9, they want them to have sexual intercourse. You need to read this stuff, right, to believe it, guys. You really do. So, our government, after much pressure from well-funded lobbyist groups, decided to sign up to this education in 2017, the UK government. So page 174 of this document tells you all the studies were done in England, but they applied to the UK. So, last year, what did we have? We had sexual stimulation in 242 schools in England from the age of 4, right? So, what's that got to do with us? This is United Nations. This was removed overnight after parents kicked off. And that's really important now, guys. You understand how quick these policies can change, right? They can change overnight. But the legislation is still in place, right? The legislation, the last time that was changed was 20 years ago. Do you trust it? So, we've had this now in the 242 schools in England last year, right? The next minute, we hear from the news, our government's taken away our parental opt-out. So we thought, that's a bit odd. We knew what was going on really. 10 minutes later, we found the proof, right? Page 4 of our Welsh RSE draft tells us, no it doesn't, it tells the teachers, if they want sex education in their school for children, small children, refer to UNESCO. This is the 2018 document. Statement 1.3 in this document tells you it's a revised version of this one. The same one the government signed up to. The one that wants sexual stimulation from birth. Must consent, differentiate between good and bad secrets. Children cannot differentiate between good and bad secrets at all. So guys, what we are told is, we are told these are evidence-based documents, right? I am telling you 100% they are not, okay? So we'll take this one for argument's sake now, the updated version, which is full of rights, guys. Oh, it looks lovely. Oh, it looks lovely. Children have all these rights. They have all these, they can exercise their rights over the parental rights. Then we come across bodily rights and sexual rights. Our children have got sexual and reproductive rights from birth. Part of this reproductive rights, guys, the state can administer medication to your child without consent. And that can easily be hormone blockers, okay? Look at the statistics in Scotland for that. That's all I'm going to say about it. So, do you want to hear about the lessons? Adele, do you want to tell them what we've discovered in the lessons in England and Scotland?
Yeah. So, as you know, I don't know what's going on with the mic today. So, as you know, in England, sexual stimulation was introduced and quickly dropped. So other places we can look then for evidence of what is that this sex education going to be teaching. Well, we can look at many of the other 52 countries that this is already being taught in. Scotland. The SNP introduced porn to Scotland with diagrams such as this. Only 40% of women do anal, and to represent this is a banana being dipped into Nutella. This is what is being taught to secondary school children. And the reason for this? Low pregnancy rate. Can't get a girl pregnant if you're doing it anal. Then we have this lovely fella. He's wonderful. He teaches the children all about the different porns you can get. All the different positions in porn. How age has no boundaries.
Mature porn, guys.
So we got a lady here being bent over a Zimmer frame. Age has no boundaries. Where could that go?
The thing is, guys, right, like he said, when he showed this picture, he said, amateur, mature. If that's mature, what is amateur? Is it a cot?
Other lesson content, oral sex. Who's doing it? Why do we do it? In America, at 9 years of age, the class content is orgasms. How to make a girl orgasm. Why is it so hard to make an orgasm? How this is just going to take time and patience. Children at 9 years of age do not need to know about orgasms. We are putting an adult perspective on sex onto children. People are saying, but they are looking at this online. They are watching it anyway. They're learning it somewhere. What, so we encourage what they are learning? Or do we teach them a different view on what they're learning? There is nothing in these documents at all that talk about the emotional side effects of having sex at a young age. Children who are not emotionally mature enough. There's a multiple of reasons why children might engage in sexual activity when they're younger. Some it may be they're from broken homes, especially when there's not been a lot of male input in their lives. Young girls often then seek that love and that attention from males, in particularly older males. And then what happens when we've got a 13-year-old loaded up on her sexual rights? And that it's her sexual right, and she is consenting to a relationship with her 26-year-old boyfriend. This is a dangerous, dangerous, slippy slope. Can I go into the assaulting school?
Yeah.
I got some stuff here. So everything here now is recent. So I wanted to keep up. So this is 2020. So we're hearing a lot about how this wouldn't happen. Our policies makers wouldn't do. Our teachers wouldn't do this. Your teachers are not in control of what your children are taught in the classroom. Let's get that clear. Policies teach your children. The teachers just deliver what the government and the policy makers want your children to teach. And we are being told that schools wouldn't do that and policy makers wouldn't do that. A prestigious Catholic private school in Ampleforth College in North Yorkshire on the 26th of November has been banned from admitting any new pupils as it doesn't meet the standards for safeguarding. It doesn't meet the standards for leadership or complaint handling. Because in 2018, an independent inquiry into sexual abuse said appalling abuse has been inflicted onto pupils over a 40-year period, and allegations have been covered up. That's a school right now who cannot admit any more students. Research by Unsafe Spaces and Ending Sexual Abuse in University said 50,000 incidents of sexual abuse, harassment take place in England and Wales. They have stated that it is fast becoming a public scandal and that abusers often adopt pack mentalities. It says it also shines light on the sexual harassment and abuse by staff, including distinguished academics. Universities are covering up not to lose their star players. In one case, a student was repeatedly raped by an eminent professor, and she felt she was unable to report it for 4 years. Nigel Leet worked at Hillside School. He was jailed in 2011 after admitting 36 offences of rape on children as young as 6.
Can you get me a clipboard, please? Yeah. Sorry, guys.
And it was said this has happened because of inadequate safeguarding. After the inquiry last week, the head of Children's Safeguarding Services stated that training was available to staff, but staff didn't know how to look for other forms of reporting methods. They were proven to have failed to safeguard the children. A recent government report has said 6 out of 10 girls in the UK have been sexually abused at school. One strong factor in this is the growing number to children's access to pornography. You're actually going to hear that a lot coming through with some of these things I'm going to say is about children's access to pornography. And yet, we are showing you that Scotland encourage children to watch pornography. I have all this in order, but I feel like it's going to go on a bit long. Panorama of the page figures from 30 police forces showing that In 2017, there were 7,000 sexual assaults in schools. With 600 of those being raped. I just pulled up an FOI actually from Cardiff University. I just want to share it with you. It's a bit windy. Hang on a second. Oh. I can't find it, which piece it is, but I'll tell you. But these are going to be approximations now. But FOI to Cardiff University, 2016 to 2017, I believe there was 50 allegations of unwanted sexual contact. 2017 to 2018, this jumped to 60 plus. And then 19 to 20, that jumped to 70. Same again then for sexual assault. From 2017 to 18, again that was in its 50s, it jumped to in its 60s the year after, and again it was in its 70s for the last year. And then for rape, again this is Cardiff University, again the same, 16 to 17 was 40 something, and it's jumped by 10 plus every year up until last year. Now the university does want you to know it has got 30,000 students, so I think they're trying to say that's a small number, but you compile each of those. That's looking at each year there's over 100 allegations of either, well, combined of unwanted contact, sexual assault or rape in Cardiff University. Schools are not equipped for this. Teachers, again I have it here, but it's a bit troubling going through it. Teachers are not equipped for dealing with these assaults. They do not know how to manage them. They do not have the correct training on them. I want to know, when this comes into a school, what is the training that teachers are now going to be having in sexual abuse? What is their training in knowing how to speak to a child about it, knowing the things that they could possibly say wrong that could then hinder a court case if they should go forward? What training are the teachers are going to have for after they've had a child disclose this abuse and they've got to go home that night to their children and their families? How are teachers are going to deal with it? This sexuality education, the study done of the 25 countries showed teachers did not want it in schools, they were not adequately trained to do this in schools, and they were uncomfortable and did not agree with the content that the children were being taught. We need you teachers to look into this. Nobody is saying anything is your fault, but if you don't look into what this is going to be, you are going to be complicit in the sexualization of our children. Thank you.
Right, so we've got our guests over. We've got Gail, Dr. Gail John and Viv. But what I do now, so I'm going to tell you what our government is saying about this, and then we move on with our other guests, okay? So guys, we keep hearing time and time again, they wouldn't do that, they wouldn't do that, they wouldn't do that, right? Well, let's just give a little example here, This is just a small list of convicted policymakers, councillors, mayors, school governors, teachers. They are all convictions, right? These aren't accusations, these are convictions. And time again, we keep hearing they wouldn't do that, they wouldn't do that. Well, take a look at their laptops and take a look at their convictions, because they certainly are doing it, right? So on to our government, guys, right? So basically, cut a long story short, our government, half of them are negligent, the other half are complicit, okay? We contacted Kirsty Williams. Obviously it's a serious issue. We want to know what her qualifications are. Can she deal with this? Can she utilise it? She sent, well, she didn't send back a letter. Her assistant sent back a letter, Steve. Sent back a massive letter. Guys, send us a letter for there. I can see everything's on there. He's got 5,000 civil servants on this. 5,000, right? That's dealing with this sex education. So basically, she told us she hasn't got a clue, right? So we did a freedom of information request to find out who these 5,000 were. the Freedom of Information request come back. There were no contractors, no researchers on that document, just the Welsh Government. So we tried to find out who actually signed us up for this global rollout. We cannot. A Freedom of Information request, they want more information off us. They want information off us. So what, we going to do the jobs for them? They told us Welsh Government wrote it, they should know who signed up for it, yeah? So, then we got the chair of the Education Committee then, Lynn Needle. Yeah. I tell you all about Lynn. Lara's one of our constituents. Lynn denied all knowledge, guys, right? Until we found a letter online between her and Kirsty Williams talking about the no parental opt-out. There was no reply to that though. They cannot explain it away. What's happened, guys, is in our draft, our RSC draft now, it hints a little bit of no parental opt-out, but it's still in there. So in the meantime, I did 2 online polls, and in overwhelming numbers, 91% the first time didn't want it, 87.6% of us didn't want it, but I didn't take part in that, did you? No, I didn't even know it existed, right? So, January 2020, they decided to tell us there's no parental opt-out, but they tell us through the news. They tell us online, through the media. So next week, guys, we've got a question going in, straight question going into our senedd, and we want to know, where's our parental opt-out? Where has it gone? So we keep talking about this global rollout, and time again, they keep telling us we're talking nonsense. It's a campaign of lies, it's misinformation, it's to safeguard, it's about meaningful relationships, and it's for children to be nice. What a load of nonsense, huh? So anyway, guys, we keep coming up against these teachers all the time now, and they keep saying, because they've been involved in that draft, that RSC draft, right, it does look at me. They all think, right, that is the be-all and end-all. But they can't turn to page 4 and read refer to UNESCO. Doesn't make sense, does it? So again, devolved powers, devolved education. Education is ours, nothing to do with England, nothing to do with Scotland, nothing to do with global. All right then. So, went to Adele have an email the other day, Adele had an email from a school in Cwmbran, and the link, well, before she clicked on the link, she questioned the school, is this from this school? Yes, it's a Welsh Government school, Welsh Government document. The link took her straight through to England. There are no devolved education in this country, guys. It is a farce. If it was a devolved education system, right, how are they all having their curriculums at the same time, man? So how are all 3 governments having their new curriculums at the same time? How are they all passing these legislation? In England, this is why we're about fighting policies, guys, right? We're not fighting policies. We are not here to have a look at a curriculum. We don't want a curriculum. We don't want to see it. Because out of the 52 countries in the world that's had this, right, no one has overturned it. And they haven't overturned it because they've been arguing. They've been arguing about the contents of the lessons. They're arguing about the LGBT. They're arguing about the trans. It's bollocks, guys, right? That is the umbrella. The main cause of this is safeguarding. Safeguarding. Sexual safeguarding. That, when I read those documents, I read them barriers to disclosure. A barrier to disclosure is something that gets in the way of a child disclosing abuse, right? So if we look at that sexual stimulation there's a line on there that traps kids in abuse, right? No one teacher can point it out. No one teacher. I'll tell you what it is. It's bottom line there. It is certainly not polite to do it in the classroom. A child that's being abused will often act out in the classroom. They've just programmed that child not to act out in the classroom. They've trapped that child in abuse. No one teacher in this country's picked up on that. Not one. And because they can't pick up on that, we fight all the way. That's not safeguarding, guys. That is not safeguarding at all, right? So, I'm going to pass you on to Gail John now, who's a whistleblowing teacher. Dr. Gail John. She's also part of Public Child Protection Wales as well. And the reason why we got Gail here, and Byron here, and Viv as well, because Viv's another warrior. The reason why we've got these people here today, guys, right, is because, yeah, it is about the sex education, and it is about these laws, right? But our system's not safe as it is. Our system is not safe. They can't even take care of additional needs kids, right? So they're going to fetch this in the middle of a mess. I don't think so. So I'm going to pass it over to Gail now. This is Dr. Gail John, who's part of Public Child Protection Wales as well. Guys, give a round of applause.
Thank you very much. Now then, I'm not sure whether you're aware, but our children and young people in Wales only make up 30% of the Welsh population. But of course, they are 100% of our future. And, the Welsh Assembly Government I would say, should be prioritising teaching literacy and safeguarding our children in terms of, if you just look at the suicide rates, there's so many other things that they should be prioritising rather than bringing in sexualisation through the curriculum. Right, now then, in 2012, I was very fortunate that I began a doctorate in education, and I focused on looking at education exclusion. And I was very surprised when I was actually speaking to lots of young people throughout Wales, how sexual abuse came up as a theme. You wouldn't think, really, if you're asking people about their experiences of education exclusion in Wales, you would not think that sexual abuse would come up as a topic. Now then, there's a lady called Dr. Andrea Darling of Durham University, and she did research into female perpetrators. And what she found, and this is going to shock you, that in organisations, 87% of female perpetrator abuse takes place in schools. 87% of female perpetration towards the victims takes place in schools. And what she also found was that talking about sex and having conversations about sex with these kids and young people was actually a key to them having access. Okay? So I really think that the Welsh Assembly Government should really think about these policies and what they're doing, take it seriously, because 87%, when you think of 87% of female perpetration of abuse taking part in schools, with conversations about sex being a prior conversation, it's something needs to be done. Okay, now then, okay, I died under this, so I shout. Right. We have a responsibility, right, towards our current generation and our future generation, and also as well towards the taxpayer. They've got a responsibility towards the taxpayer to ensure that all of our children reach their potential in life, that they are safeguarded in our schools, that when a teacher or someone actually raises concerns of abuse with evidence, that they take these concerns seriously. In England, there is evidence of a Senko who whistleblew about fraud and abuse and covering over of provision failures, and they sacked the perpetrator. Right? If that happened in Wales, I will tell you now that they would basically hound that Senko and go after that Senko's family. I know, because I was a Senko who whistleblew about covering over a fraud, or attempted covering over a fraud. Also as well about the children, abusive practice towards special needs children. One child was hit over the head with a book by a head teacher. Is that head teacher still practicing? Yes, he is, because the systems covered it. I was offered £17,000 to keep my mouth shut. As you can see, it's not shut.
Yes!
Byron John, I'm sorry, but that could have been prevented.
Yes, it
The
could
Welsh
have.
Assembly Government, I wrote in 2013 to the Education Minister at the time, Leighton Andrews, who he did actually apologise. I did have an apology from him 6 years later when he was targeted himself for standing up for someone, Carl Sargent, who was also, he was a target himself of bullying. 3 education ministers. And let's have a look at the statistics in Wales, because the reflection of any education policy will be seen in the social policy statistics. And look, we're looking at one here, we're looking at one there. You're all, right, all of you, if you live in Wales, you're a statistic.
Yeah.
Right? And the policy, if it's actually affecting you in a good way, then we've got a good policy. But looking around, there's a lot of pain. And there's a lot of abuse going on in Wales, not just in schools, but across the public services, psychiatric system, prison systems. Honestly, let's have a look at the statistics. Don't take my word for it. I'm going to read some statistics out to you. Okay? And they're not from me, plucking these figures from the air. These are figures. Oh, then in 2018, the suicide rate in Wales went up 11.9%. Now, then you might think, oh, right, okay, but the thing is we need to compare Wales to the rest of the UK. The rest of the UK, England, Scotland, Northern Ireland, their statistics of suicide went down. The Welsh statistics went up 11.9%. Now then, let's look at female statistics of suicide. They went up 45%. Now then, 45% female suicide statistics going up. Oh my goodness, something needs to be done. Now then, the education attainment. We should be worried really about the education policy in Wales because as the PISA shows, 2009, 2012, 2015, 2018, that we got the worst education attainment in the UK. Okay, so we shouldn't be focusing on sexualisation. We should be teaching our kids to read and write and safeguard. Right, let's have a look. Now then, I'm just going to illustrate this with a little story, okay, like stories. Now then, a medical doctor went down to the river one day and he saw a load of drowning people in that river. So he got in the river and he started to pull them out, give them CPR, okay, bring them back to life. Anyway, he went, there was another one, and another one, and another one. And he soon realised, exhausted, that the only way to stop all these drowning people was to go and find out who was pushing them in the blooming river and stop them from drowning. And that's what we need to do. We need to change our policies to safeguard our kids. Thank you, Byron, for coming up and sharing your pain. But it should never have happened. We shouldn't be here listening to Byron speak. It should never have happened. Sorry.
It's not working anyway.
Okay. So, I mean, Martin Luther King, what he said was true compassion is not throwing a coin at a beggar, it's actually changing the system that's producing the beggars. Okay, there's too many victims. Trauma does not sleep, goes on to destroy lots and lots of families. Okay? You know, honestly, sorry. So, we do just have a look. I mean, our criminal justice system. How can a dyslexic man who was failed in school age 14, left without school without qualifications, how can he be in prison serving 4 life sentences for a crime that it was impossible for him to commit? Where if you look at the court documentation, there's discrepancies there. No, he sat in prison. There's no DNA, right? You know, these are special needs Welsh kids.
Yeah.
Who are then the consequences are in that adulthood, right? So you can look at the psychiatric system. We've got one of the highest rates in over medication, which means that instead of actually dealing with the root of the problem, we just put in medicating them, right? I mean, how can a 19-year-old, might call him a boy, who has epilepsy, go and be locked in a psychiatric hospital, told that he'll never get out alive, and pumped full of about 7 different medications, which are causing him self-harm, suicidal tendencies, etc. You know, and told him not to life when it's actually the medication that's causing the problem. Okay, they've recognised that now, right? But then if you actually raise these concerns, then he's been left banging his head in a social service residential home for 4 hours, they'll actually retaliate on you instead of dealing with the problem. Right? Sorry.
Sorry again.
Say again. Don't mind.
Sorry, guys.
Here's another one. A child who was sexually abused firstly by parents, got took into foster care, was then abused in the foster care system, okay? Now, what do the social services do? You'd think, oh my goodness, they'd be raising alarms. No. They call the child a liar, right? They call the child a liar. In school, you think the teachers, when a disclosure is made that they go and safeguard, no. They call the child a liar, okay? So that's the reality. And those are the things. If you want to sort of look about education and sex education, we should be teaching our children to safeguard themselves from the system, all right? From perpetrators both within and outside the system. Okay, now I could actually say so much more, but I'm sure you want to hear from Viv. She's been through the system, okay? You know, and just as all of your stories are, you know, powerful. Please make your voice heard, because it is your voice that is going to be safeguarding our kids, and our kids are the future. That's it.
Thank you very much, Gail. So, Gail is exactly like us, guys. She's a warrior, had it hard, and she educated herself to get herself out of it, and now she's a justice fighter just like us. And it's an absolute honour to have her on Public Child Protection Wales. So now, Viv. So now we got Viv here, something a little bit different for you guys, right? Viv's a policeman's daughter. Ooh. So, even the children aren't safe.
Okay, so what I'm going to tell you now has never been heard in the public arena before. So, my name is Vivenne, and I'm a researcher at Goldsmiths University of London, and I'm studying domestic violence and sexual abuse. Double trouble. I put notes, obviously it's quite traumatising still, at my age of 56 to be telling strangers the story. So yes, I am a daughter of a police officer who did 25 years in Port Talbot, and I'm one of 7 children, very privileged upbringing. In 1972, a long time ago, at the age of 8, I was groomed by a member of a family married in. He was manipulative, he was very clever. It wasn't only myself, there was 2 other sisters that he groomed as well. One older, one younger. In school, my education started to fail. The teachers didn't recognise the failing because I was quite a outgoing child then. I started sitting on my hands in school because I was so sore from what he did. But I was getting a row from the teacher for sitting on my hands. The teachers didn't recognise it. I tried many times to tell the teachers about this man, and they didn't believe me. In 1978, the police picked me up. My father was still in the police force, and what they did as punishment in that cell was strip me bare and throw my clothes to the other side of the room to teach me a lesson to stop, because I was lying. I was lying. They put me into the care system called Silverbrook and Egworth Brewers. The same care home I was in with Lynette White. While I was in the care home, the abuse continued by the staff. It was ongoing. So, looking back now, there was no safeguarding measures. Our teachers were the ones that cared for us in the home. They weren't educated. They were not social workers. They were just like you lot. It was a job to pay their mortgage. And I get that. It was hard times in the 70s. On a daily basis, the girls were being abused. I was held by the throat. I was sat on by men. looking back at it now, on hindsight, if we'd screamed murder, we still would have been in that locked up place. It was 24 hours. I never seen outside that building for 2 years. At 16 I left. They let me out. And I went married at 16 to a man 20 years older than me. Then I got into domestic violence. For 17 years that man beat me senseless. What could I do? Nobody had listened to me as a child. Are they going to listen to me as an adult? They didn't listen. I had 3 beautiful children that came out of it. That man is still walking the streets, as is the perpetrator. So, sorry, I gotta look at my notes, because it is a bit heart-wrenching. I've never told this story to anyone. In 1982, my father, I was 21 years old, he passed away. He came out of the police force, and I think my sister drowning at 15, 3 daughters being abused, had taken its toll on my father. I still got my mother, she's 87, bless her heart. He never got over the fact that all this had happened to his girls, the children that he wanted. I divorced the first husband and I remarried. No education. I had nothing going for me except me and my children, and I found a wonderful guy. I progressed through, he brought up my children as his own, and then I met Dr. Gail John quite 2.5 years ago. I tried going through Swansea University. There was no support there. I was classed as a failure before I'd started, but I tried. So I left there and I went to a meeting and I met Michael O'Brien from the Cardiff Music and 3, Dr. John, and she said to me, why don't you go back into education and do something that you understand? Do something that is affecting every child. So I started at Goldsmiths University. Some of the stuff I cannot disclose because it's still going on within the care system, which we're addressing at this moment. But take it from me that the evidence we have shows that in the institutions in Wales, abuse is going on. There is no accountability. Nobody is held accountable. These children are sitting in foster homes and institutions being abused. It's been brought to the government. Neil McAvoy is the children's voice. He is trying and it's in vain. Nobody wants to listen to what he says or anybody else has to say. I am a child from the 70s who had extreme abuse inside the institutions and outside the institutions. Unless people and families start coming forward who have children in the care system, or they see it next door, whichever. But the education in the schools, from my own perspective, as a child of 8 years old, having gone through probably more than what's on that board by the time I was 8 years old. It's indescribable. Why would a child want to know what happened to me? Because I'm just telling my story and I'm looking at the board thinking, dear God, the Welsh are failing our children, and they have since I don't know when. So it's time for change. And these ladies who've brought this to the forefront has been amazing, absolutely amazing. And listening to everyone here and seeing everybody here today, and having said this story for the first time in over 40 years, has just taken a big weight off one's shoulders. So I thank you for listening.
Hiya. I just want to touch on just a couple more things now before we wrap up. One of those things is, like Viv just mentioned there, is adults and education. So one of the big problems that we have had in this campaign, getting the response that it needs, is simply adults saying that, not understanding how big abuse is. Sexual abuse of our children is of an epidemic scale. It is huge. Our planet spins on it. It's child exploitation and child trafficking is a billion-dollar industry that brings in more money than drug trafficking. Child abuse is rife. Our country is full of it, and unfortunately, because adults do not believe this, children are not being helped. So they are saying this sex education is going to help these child abuse cases, that more children are going to come forward. What good is all these children speaking out if the adults still don't know what they're talking out about? What help will these children get when they go back into their houses? What support will they get from their parents when their parents are saying it wasn't that bad, or did you have to report it? The punishment. Adults need educating on sexual abuse more than the children. Teach the parents how to keep their children safe. What signs to look out for? Who is a danger? Because it is not the strangers that your children are in danger from. It is granddad, it is uncle, it is teachers, it is sports coach, it is brothers and sisters in some cases, it is cousins, it is your politicians, it is your school governors. These are the people our children need to be wary of, but that is not who we teach them to be wary of. Many people are saying, you parents shouldn't have the opt-out because parents are abusers and their child might be getting abused by a parent and therefore they will remove them from this class. We can see from this list here, there are plenty of teachers who are abusers too. Children need protection from everyone. If sexual abuse is a huge, huge problem, so as I said before, what training are the teachers going to have? At a scale like this, I want somebody who is trained, whose profession is protecting children, to come and educate and protect my child. If my word is not good enough to teach my child, that the school is also going to have involvement. I just found out about a C card. Does anybody here know what a C card is? A C card. I just spoke with somebody in my town who told me she had the Torvine training for a C card. A C card is a condom card. Every school has one. The teacher who's got the condom card. This is from age 13, and the school can then give your child a condom or the morning after pill if they so require. Now this is the same one that they're saying that doctors cannot give hormone blockers or medical treatment to your underage child. They can get the morning after pill that affects their hormones. They can do that. So I asked this lady, okay, right, the opinion of the school is they're going to do it anyway, so let's make them as safe as possible. So I asked her, in this training, what do you then talk to the children about when they come to you for a morning after pill or a condom? Do you ask them, are they being forced into sex? No. Do you ask them if they're being pressured or paid to have sex? No. Do you ask them if they are in danger? Are they being abused? No. Do you ask them, are they ready? Do they know about the emotional commitment and the emotions that they are going to be given by having sex? No. So what do? We give them the condom. We refer them for the morning after pill. So when you have got a 13-year-old coming to you asking for a morning after pill or a condom, is there any safeguarding conversation whatsoever? The answer was no. That is not good enough. Just because kids may have sex at 13 does not mean that they should. Some girls or boys may very well feel like they are mature enough, that they are consenting with each other, and this is something that they have wanted to do. That is a small minority compared to the rest. So, like I said, I was just very shocked to learn about this C card. I didn't know anything about it. So again, more evidence that prevention of pregnancy and STIs seems to be what they're most concerned about, not whether these children are being abused and whether they are safe or whether they are actually wanting to engage in any sexual activities or whether they are mature enough to do this. We had Professor David Patton on our show the other day. All research shows that with the introduction of sex education, there has only been an increase in underage teenage pregnancy and teenage STIs. There is no evidence to show that this is going to prevent those. That's all from me for the moment. Thank you.
So guys, I was going to go into institutional abuse, but Viv's pretty much covered that. We don't need to repeat that again. I just want to say one thing, guys. We're being patronised a lot by them idiots in there that haven't got no qualifications. They just like to have a few votes. We've been patronised by the National Association of Head Teachers and the Children's Commissioner. The Children's Commissioner failed to investigate this. She's going. She is going. So how do we know they're patronising us? We're confused parents, guys. We're not reading these documents right. Oh, but what else have we? What else have we?
We're paedophiles.
Oh, I'm a paedophile. I talk with the government now.
We want abuse. We're doing
yeah, so basically, guys, right, apparently now we are just angry parents. We don't know what we are talking about. We are confused. This is misinformation and this is lies. I'm a criminologist. I'm a criminologist and qualified in perpetrators of abuse, child sex abuse, child sex exploitation, harmful sexual behaviour, models of offending, bias disclosure. I've got a degree in social policy. I've been working in education policy for 15 years. I know how to read an education document. What am I reading there? I'm reading a model of offending. So that's me. We're going to tell them. It does training to be a child psychologist. But we just confused. Then we got Dr. Gail John over there. Dr. Gail John, doctor in adverse childhood experiences. She's just confused. So like we said, these teachers don't get training, guys. They do a degree and then a couple of weeks course and that's all they do. The degree can be in anything. So again, like I said, the National Association of Head Teachers, we are not confused. We are far more qualified than everyone making these decisions. We are far more qualified than everyone in those offices. We know what we are talking about. And that's why we've come forward. We haven't just decided, got up one morning and thought, I'll just kick off over this. No, we're kicking off because this is dangerous. This is dangerous, guys, right? And this is not coming from a country. And I don't care what anyone's saying. But what's going to happen now? We're waiting for a debate, right? Last week we had a petition running. They emailed us 3:15 on Thursday and said, oh, if you don't get 10,000, if you don't get 5,000 by Monday, it goes up to 10,000 on Tuesday. So I asked, I said, when was this decision made? Oh, last week, they said. So why are you only telling us now? Oh, it took us longer to get around to you. Bull crap, right? Bull crap. You're trying to make it difficult for us, guys. They've changed the links on our petition as well. Made a mockery of it. Our petition's been down a few times as well. But anyway, we made the 5,000 right to get this debate. We're not going to get it, guys. We're not going to get it. They're trying to wrap us up, right? But we're not going nowhere. We might have shut down their petition. We're going nowhere, and we've had it running all along, right? They do not tell us when it's game over, okay? We tell them when it's game over. Education is not a gift from them. Neither is health a gift from them, okay? Education's bought and paid for by us. Same as that building, bought and paid for by us, right? So do you know when April now, when the Queen gives her royal assent, they are supposed to be having an election in May, they put it back for 6 months, right? If that bill gets royal assent, that building will be taken over. Because I am not having any kid in this country go through that. I am telling you now, they all have to go. This is a step too far, guys, right? We've heard stories, they try to make up their isolated incidents. They're not isolated incidents, guys. They are not isolated incidents at all. I got a son myself who wanted to walk out in front of a car because he had to put training in school, okay? Guys, this cannot go through. You've got to tell everyone you know about this, right? And if that gets royal assent, we take over this building. And that's a fact. That is our building. These are our children, our education. We pay for it, okay? We pay for it and we say what happens. In 2014, they told us education begins at home. And in 2020, they're trying to take it away from us. As if, guys. That's all I've got to say. Oh, one more thing, guys. One more thing, sorry. This was last minute, guys, because they're hiding the dates from us. We know that they're supposed to print the dates online for us to see, right, but they're sneaking them past us. But we're having a debate here, or a vote on the 15th, isn't it?
Yeah.
So we're going to be here on the 15th, guys. But I hope on the 15th this crowd is going to be double or even triple, because this is getting serious. We are running out of time, right? They want to put that election back, but they're still going to put this through without scrutinising it. On the curriculum bill, this features in two places, page 3 and page 33, and it's all it says is it's a mandated subject, right? Not one school has questioned where maths and science is gone. We keep getting told that we're campaigning against sex education. No, we are not. We're campaigning against the sexualisation of children. We're not campaigning against safeguarding or sex education. We're campaigning against this, guys. Consent. Consent and pleasure, paedophile policies. Policies. And they think we're stupid. No way, that has to stop. But yeah, guys, if we're going to be here on the 15th of December, and such many people who come, guys. We're still kids. Not just our kids, every single child that's going to be born in this country will be facing that. If they masturbate at age 4, they got porn and bondage at age 11. Guys, they've lowered the voting age now. They've lowered the voting age already. What's next, guys? What is next? I was on the streets as a teenager when I was 16, right? I was homeless on and off from 14 to 21, right? I wasn't mature for this. I wasn't mature to vote. I knew nothing about politics. So what are they doing to our kids? What are they doing to our kids? We've got this going on in schools. We've got lots of stuff going on in schools, right? That's our education. That's indoctrination, guys. And they sexualise our children. Simple as that. Thank you.
Thank you again all so much for coming today. Again, I just want to remind everyone and anyone who's watching this, obviously we've got our Facebook page, Education, Our Say, Our Way. We've got another page, Public Child Protection Wales. We've got our website, www.publicchildprotectionwales.org. We're asking you all to look at this yourself. In Europe, it's called RSE. England, it's SRE. For the rest of the world, it's called CSE, Comprehensive Sexual Education. You can look online. You wouldn't buy something off Amazon without reading the reviews. Why is our government buying into a sex education without reading the reviews? You can search it. It is available online everywhere you go. Look at the 2010 WHO document. Look at the study of 25 of the countries that has been implemented so far. Read the UNESCO document. Look at who partnered with these people to write these documents. Who are they? Where have they come from? Research the research. That's what we're doing. Don't come with us that you've read your school policy. Policies mean nothing, especially the ones that are in place right now. Lynn Eagle herself has said the new Welsh RSE policy will not be written until after it is the law to teach your children it. Are you willing to wait until it is the law before you get to read that policy?
No! We've read enough!
Thank you so much. Again, the 15th, that's when it is going to be debated, so we need as many. Thank you all for making the effort of coming down here today. We really appreciate it.
just pass it around. This is a global sex education coming from the World Health Organization and the United Nations. We are devolved government. We are supposed to have our own education. The research for this is done in Africa, third world countries and America. It does not fit for our Welsh children, for our culture, for our lives, for our children. Thank you again, everybody.
Feel free to come and have a look at the list. Take a photo if you want, take a video.
On the 15th, because on the date, I want your child or grandchild.